Y'all, let's talk about the path of least resistance. I know a lot of people out here that are struggling to keep up with bills, struggling to keep up with partnerships, struggling to keep up with like a basic lifestyle. And it's just because they are fighting to remain in a current that's not even of their frequency. They are stressing themselves out, stressing out the people around them just because they're not really doing what they love. They're not doing what they are passionate about. They are also overcompensating, giving too much of themselves to people that don't deserve their wealth, don't deserve their abundance, and don't deserve them. This has a lot to do with the reason why they struggle. This has a lot to do with the reason why they don't attract anything to them. They are afraid to pamper themselves, afraid to really live their best life, and afraid to just say no to things that don't serve them. It's a problem when you have people around you that drain you. You have a job that drains you. You have all of these signs around you that show that you are drained. Your skin isn't glowing. You aren't drinking enough water. You're not exercising. You're not eating healthy. And you're doing things just to get by. Stop pouring into everyone else's cup. Stop eating everyone else's ideas when what you have is really just limited. It's not limitless, it's limited. And these are the same people that are jealous. These are the same people that are constantly comparing their lifestyles, comparing their cars, comparing their bangs, comparing the fact that they're so independent and they don't need anyone to support them because they do this and that for themselves. And it's like, after you do all of that for yourself, you are drained. You're drained because you do not know how to form a community. When you surround yourself around people like that, of course, you're not going to want to do anything for that person because they have given you the impression that they can do everything, they have everything, and you don't need them or they don't need you. So when you're in that place and when you have that mindset, it's literally hard for you to attract. It's hard for you to attract the people, the resources, and just anything that you really need because you have everything. According to you, you're sending out messages to the universe that you have everything. You have everything figured out. So why would you receive anything? Why would you receive respect? Why would you receive extra cash if you need it? Why would you receive flowers? Why would you receive like a compliment? Why would you receive anything? If you're in this place where you feel like you've done everything, you've accomplished everything, and everything else is just like mini, small, not enough, that energy is very unattractive. Seducers draw you in by the focused, individualized attention they pay to you. Anti-seducers are the opposite: insecure, self-observed, and unable to grasp the psychology of another person. They literally repel. Anti-seducers have no self-awareness and never realize when they are pestering, imposing, or talking too much. They lack the subtlety to create the promise of pleasure that seduction requires. Root out anti-seductive qualities in yourself and recognize them in others. There is no pleasure or profit in dealing with an anti-seducer. It seems easy. Anti-seducers repel, so be repelled. Avoid them. Unfortunately, however, many anti-seducers cannot be detected as such at first glance. They are more subtle, and unless you are careful, they will ensnare you in the most unsatisfying relationship. You must look for clues to their self-involvement and insecurity. Perhaps they are ungenerous, or they argue with unusual tenacity, or are excessively judgmental. Perhaps they lavish you with undeserved praise, declaring their love before knowing anything about you. Or most important, they pay no attention to details, since they cannot see what makes you different. They cannot surprise you with their nuisance attention. It's like being around someone that's like very unpleasant, and you get this vibe that they know that they're unpleasant, and you know that they're unpleasant because they'll try to act like they like you. They'll pretend that they see all of these qualities that are so perfect or admirable about you, but really they're just making things up, and they're just going on about things that you really don't relate to. They're self-absorbed. They only talk about themselves, and they're just draining your energy. They're draining the glow. They're draining the resources, and they do anything but give to you. All they do is take from you. They take from the situation, and everything is about them. The best way to avoid entanglements with anti-seducers is to recognize them right away and give them space. But they often deceive us. Involvements with them or these types are painful and are hard to disengage from because the more emotional response you show, the more engaged they seem to be. Do not get angry. That may only encourage them or exuberate the anti-seductive tendencies. So it's like the more you give them energy, the more you feel them, it's like going to make the situation even worse. So the best way to deal with them is just ignore them in the first place. Instead, act distant and indifferent. Pay them no attention. Make them feel how little you matter or they matter to you. The best antidote for an anti-seducer is often to be an anti-seductive yourself. So sometimes you gotta be anti-seductive yourself. Sometimes you gotta ignore people. Ignoring people is so anti-seductive. Ignoring them, not giving them no attention, not giving them the time of the day. It's like, that's like their medicine. That's like medicine for you as well, because it's going to really block out anything that is not going to contribute to your flow. That's the best way. That's the best way to deal with people that are lacking self-awareness and people that feel comfortable with being the victim of their circumstances and being the victim in other people's lives and not taking accountability for the way they feel and where they are. The truth about this type is that they are searching for an ideal, but they are hopelessly unhappy with themselves. You may mistake their dissatisfaction for perfectionist high standards, but in point of fact, nothing will really satisfy them, for their unhappiness is deep-rooted. So you could try to satisfy this person or give them everything, quote unquote, but in all actuality, they are unhappy from within. Robert goes on to say that you can recognize these people by them being in like dysfunctional relationships. Everything around them is just dysfunctional, and everything and people is repelled by them. And he refers to them as closet sadists, and have like high expectations for the people around them. They'll have high expectations for the way that you should show up in their lives, as far as do what I don't do for myself. And when you don't meet that expectation, when you don't meet that goal, they will literally try to torture you. My advice would be to avoid people that don't have a sense of self. They don't have a sense of self because they're so absorbed in other people's world. They're so absorbed in giving too much of themselves to other people. They're too consumed in the politics, the office politics, the jobs. They're too consumed in that aspect of their life, and they don't really have the time, or they don't create the time to decompress and have like an outlet outside of what is conventionally normal. These people center themselves around like the accomplishments of others. So the accomplishments of their grandkids, the accomplishments of their kids. They literally try to live through the people around them. They use the people's energy around them to put themselves on a higher pedestal, or put themselves in a position where they are competing with people that are at their level. So they compete with people that are basically doing the same thing that they are doing. And this is why it's always important to establish your own hobbies, establish your own sense of self, establish and really decipher what it is that you like about yourself and the things that you don't like about yourself. Establish boundaries around what you will accept and what you won't accept, because as soon as you get in an environment where there are people like this around, they will like alter the way you feel if you don't have control over your reality, if you do not have control over the way that you already feel. So when I say ignore or separate yourself, that is literally the best way that you could deal with them. It's like having a partner. They want you to contribute loyalty. They want you to contribute money. They want you to contribute romantic dates. They want you to contribute all of these things. But you don't see them do it for themselves outside of you. So whenever you take that supply away, whenever you take yourself being a resource away from the situation, they are literally going through withdrawals. So when you're around someone that is going through withdrawals, either they take it out on you or they self-destruct. Either way, they self-destruct. So another way to deal with the anti-seducer, I know this has been kind of like a lot to take in. Keywords is to have like a queen status when you're talking to this person, nod, seem to agree with what they're saying, then find an excuse to cut the conversation short. This is the only defense strategy. So just disengage completely. Call you dismissive and say like, oh my gosh, this person is ignoring me. They are not paying me any attention. But honestly, that's the best way to be. Like, quick excuses is just to say, oh my gosh, I have to go to the bathroom. Oh my gosh, I have to run some errands. I'm sorry. Thank you for talking to you. I think I need to go in the house to finish a project. I need to finish my homework. There's something that I forgot to do. I will be right back. If I'm not back, then I will speak to you in a later date. You are not entitled to sharing your energy with anyone. If you do not want to have a conversation, you can easily cut the conversation short.